What's good, y'all? So I'm out here today checking up on Sammy Sosa. We're having a little chat on the first official episode of Iconic. I'm excited about it. Bye. What's poppin', everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to the first official episode of Iconic. And today I'm sitting with one of the most amazing radio broadcasters in our country. We came into the game together. Because she did radio like forever before that, but into the mainstream game together. And she's always been someone I was inspired by, someone that I knew was like a hectic competitor. So you always look at certain people in the game and you're like, yo, that person is, I need to step up my game. So without me saying too much, ladies and gentlemen, Sammy Sosa.
Wow, Shell, that was like a mind-blowing intro.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not using the Sosa thing anymore.
Oh,
I don't use it. I don't use it
know
anymore.
what?
Yeah.
Like, can I reintroduce the name?
Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is it? So,
Sam Lehoko.
Oish, the whole damn thing. All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Lehoko.
Yes.
Not Sammy Sosa, y'all.
No.
And this, you said this is your first interview, like?
This is probably my first interview in years. I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years. Yeah, the first sit down that I'm doing and one that I'm really excited for. So thank you for having me.
Before we like go into everything, how are you?
Good. You know, I think my thinking today is really just taking it one day at a time. You know, if not one day at a time, then 1 minute at a time. So just for today, I'm really good. I'm feeling positive. I'm in a good space. Just for today.
We had some nice chow off air.
Oh, I think I've still got something in my teeth, Shah.
I'm telling Sam that like if we do smell each other's like
it's okay.
Spring onion.
Came from the same kitchen, had the same dish. Pass. Luckily it was food we were passing. All good. Yeah.
Got you. That's amazing, man. So thank you so much for being here. Obviously, I think the series for this whole thing, right? The show is called Iconic, but this whole series is because I'm personally on my comeback.
Yeah.
I know that you are also finally. Well, I think you back, but like I know you definitely on the journey of your comeback. We'll definitely dive into that deeper just now. But I wanted to find out: did you always know this was what you were gonna do, like entertainment?
I don't know. You know, I for a long time, you know, was inspired by the journalism space, and I wanted to write articles and interview people, but I never really envisioned myself being in front of the camera, you know. And my dad really wanted me to go to Rhodes and study journalism, etc. But in high school, when I did dramatic arts, I think that's kind of where things changed for me, and I had teachers who loved what I did. You know, my classmates found me hilarious, and they were like, "Listen, one day we're going to see your name in lights." Hasn't happened yet. You know? Still waiting for that moment. You know, but I think it was really just like people around me pushing me and encouraging me, and eventually, like I started to believe what they were saying. You know, and I fell in love with the art of speaking and entertaining and performing, and you know, being able to memorize things, because it is an art. It's an art form. So yeah, the passion started really early, I suppose, when I was in high school.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Who did you like look up to? Who were your people that you looked at and or were you one of those people that's watched America?
Yeah. I was on my Denzel. You know, I was watching Denzel and those guys, you know. And my dad and I used to watch a lot of like action movies, a lot of thrillers and things like that, you know, Cuba Gooding Jr. type of stuff. We were on the John Wicks as well. You know, so it wasn't necessarily, you know, who am I looking up to from a performing arts point of view or from an acting point of view. You know, I just loved the whole entertainment space, the entertainment industry. And I think it's also important for me to realize that, you know, you can do more than one thing. You know, you can act, you can sing, you can present, you can DJ. I have my thoughts around doing all of those things at the same time, you know.
Is it?
Yes.
Because look here, the other day I saw a quote and it was like, not even a quote, it was a video. So this lady was like, people like undersell, or they talk down on the jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But then that's the incomplete quote. It's better than the rest. So it basically means that like you do these things better than everybody else. That's the thing. It's like as much as you doing different things at once, it's because you're so good at all these different things. It's not because it's different if you're like a hustler. and you're like trying and you're fighting.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if you really know, are you putting your face like that because of my spring onion?
No.
Oh.
I'm following the conversation.
You feel what I mean? So, hey, guys,
the
I
lecture.
have to just check. No, I'm not lecturing. I'm just saying. So, like, I've been facing that my whole life.
Yeah.
Because I started as a dancer, went from dancing to like
Presenting
obviously
was
doing
also
commercials,
in there. Yeah.
and then I went to presenting,
Yeah.
and then I went into music, and then presenting and acting went together. But like, obviously, I faced that my whole life.
I think
You know
that
what I mean?
the challenge is, Shelton, is that, you know, when you're doing all of these things and people see that, there's a lot of pressure for you not to drop the ball, you know? So if you're going to
course.
make the decision to do these 50 things that you're doing, you got to make sure that you're making good music, that you're on your A game, that you're fit, that you're mentally, spiritually, and
100%.
physically okay,
100%.
you know? So for me, I feel like I don't think I'd be able to maintain all of those different things, you know? I today wear many different hats, but that's all that I can handle, you know? And I think within the entertainment space, I could never DJ.
Yeah.
You know, I'm petrified of that space. You know, I love music and I wish I could play music, but I have I have Apple Music. So,
But you did music at some point, right?
what do you mean? Like singing?
Yes. Dude. What do you mean?
I
Yeah.
did, my friend. And the thinking behind it was like, you know, I'm a firm believer in using the resources that you have around you, you know? So I thought to myself, here's something on my bucket list. I've got great people around me, talented people around me who can not only write music, but can produce music. And I thought, here's an opportunity to not only not use them, but to make use of their skills, you know, and make a beautiful project. And that's what happened. And I ticked it off my bucket list. People loved my music and couldn't believe that I could sing.
So is your worry that people are gonna think that you are half-assing it, or people's perception or watching how you do it, is you worried about that, or are you worried about you personally knowing that you can't handle that?
I don't think I'm worried about anything. I just prefer focusing on what I'm doing right now.
Okay, cool.
You know, I'm really just trying to do one thing at a time, not necessarily perfect it, because that's been one of my biggest struggles is that I'm such a perfectionist and I always want to just get things perfect and I want to control everything and everyone, you know. And now I've had to kind of step back, not have these unrealistic expectations of anybody, and focus on what I can and cannot do, right? And music, I mean, I love making music. I love being in studio. I love, you know, the vibe that we have in studio. But at the end of the day, you know, is it something that I want to dedicate my life to right now? Not really. And it's no disrespect to anybody. It's just me saying that I have other passions, bigger passions, and other priorities right now, you know. And if somebody says, hey, let's do a feature, absolutely, I'd love to,
100%.
you know. But it doesn't mean I'm going to release an album.
I feel you 100%. What was your idea about the industry coming in? Did you have like a concept? And I'm not talking about like you said, looking up to people or whatever, but you personally, what did you think the industry was going to be like when you arrived?
To be honest, I didn't think about it. You know, I went from campus radio straight into commercial radio, you know, and that was a huge jump. Firstly, I didn't grow up in Joburg, you know, so I don't know, or back then I didn't know about the culture this side. I wasn't really aware of the industry. I didn't know anybody in the industry. So I literally came in here and just kind of figured it all out, you know. And for me, yes, it was exciting. You know, I was a new mom. I was, you know, coming into the industry. I was getting to do what I love. It was really exciting times, but I didn't know or anticipate the pace of everything, you know.
So it was an adjustment from like
100%. And in addition to that, it was like in a very short space of time, I was doing radio, I was doing television, I was emceeing, I was
let me
parties.
tell y'all
like,
something.
I was the it thing.
At some point, Sammy took everything, and I was like, "What?
Guys,
what the hell?"
Say it like that.
Yo, you literally
really?
Yo,
did the hustle as well?
No, she was heavy.
Yeah.
And then there was some point she was like doing like V Prime with us. We like, no, bro, you already have turned up.
Really?
And you already. I'm joking.
Did you guys have that chat?
No, never.
You
No,
sure?
I didn't. No, look here. For me, like, I don't like gossiping in the industry.
Yes.
I gossip to my boys.
Oh, okay.
So if I
what
told,
did they say?
I don't know if I told the boys. I'm
Call
joking.
them, say where you at, meet me outside.
I'm kidding. I definitely, and I think everyone felt it, man.
Yeah.
Everyone, and the thing is, like, understand, as you said now, right? Like, we came out of. I grew up in Joburg. So I was like partying with like everybody that's like either on TV now or that's older that I've been with that whole. My first party was when I was 11. So I've been like in the club.
Yes.
You know, so I've been in the scene. So it wasn't like people knew when they saw me on TV. It was like, oh, Shelton is now a presenter, nice. For you, it was like, yo, who is this girl just taking everything?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the adjustment for you, I'm sure that was crazy.
I think what people don't realize is that and I probably didn't think about it, but I had to choose between pursuing my career or being a mother. And unfortunately, I chose the first option. I didn't choose the latter. My son was only 3 months old, and I came into this industry, having to really step up and show what I had at the time, And I think that things happened so quickly because I looked different, I sounded different, I came through with ink everywhere and I was tatted up and whatever, and people were quite intrigued by, who is this somebody, you know what I mean? And I was just rolling with it, But at the end of the day, I was overwhelmed and I was thrown into the deep end, and everything was happening so quickly in such a very short space of time. There was no room for me to just take a step back and actually analyze and assess what was going on for me, And I think that in a very short space of time as well, I was slowly just like losing it, losing everything that I had really been taught, from my upbringing, and everything that I had planned and envisioned before even coming here,
So who do you think Sam was, that the little bits that you can remember? Because I know, like, I relate with you so much. That's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because when it happened, like, we really did, like, it popped for us at like a time where I think the game was just like nice. Like 2015 was crazy.
It was exciting. It was
crazy,
happening. It was fun.
Like
there were no bad vibes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I know that I lost myself. I know I lost myself very quickly. Like the first year, like I had friends that was like, they were like, yo, bros, like, we can't hang with you because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
you had
for you, it's like, who do you remember Sam as at that time? Like, what were you saying to yourself? Did you have moments where you were calling yourself out, or did you at the back of your head have that voice that's like, bruh, you messing up? Like, come on, dude, like, get this together. Nah.
Not even. And I don't know why, I remember being excited. I remember being, energetic. I remember wanting to put myself out there as much as possible. I didn't care what the interview was about or who it was for. I just wanted to be everywhere, I didn't even have to, like, I remember doing an interview and we were talking about sports, and I don't know much about sports, like, yes, I box, but that's about it. And I can mention who's that guy, who's that UFC fighter, McGregor, It's like I can just drop 1 or 2 names, but that's it, But the idea was to get out there as much as possible and for people to get to know me, and I wanted them to see that, I was different and I came with this different energy, but I got really caught up in, as you say, everything that was going on. And it was just like fast paced. And at some point I was just doing things for the sake of doing it, and not, at no point did I actually take a step back, like I said earlier, to really like understand where I'm going and what I'm doing with all of this stuff, And I think, it is important to emphasize the fact that, sometimes we're having to put ourselves in positions where we're too tired to do it, or we're not in the right headspace to do it, but we do it anyway, for the sake of doing it, whether it's for the people or the fans or the followers or, the people in the industry or whatever. You don't not want to show up, And that's the problem, is that at no point was I prioritizing my mental and physical, even my emotional well-being, You just kind of go with it. You roll with the punches, and then there's a new opportunity or a new gig or a new show or a new, paycheck that's coming. And, I think at one point I was quite blindsided by a lot of things, like I'm choosing money over family. I'm choosing late nights over rest. I'm choosing, free alcohol over, books and literature and stuff like that. I'm choosing, the social space over spirituality. And I don't even think like, I even stopped to play the movie out and think about like what could actually happen.
Because you were the character, right? You were like,
I was the lead and the side and the supporting and zonke. I was
crazy,
even,
right?
on music.
I remember you had this, like, you guys were like, I can't even say, like, you guys were like the Destiny's Child of the game. You know,
Okay.
you, Muesli,
Yeah.
like you guys were just like the Destiny's Child of the game at some point where it was just dangerous. It was just like all these women are
Yeah.
like, first of all, killing the top of the game and they like one squad. Your perception of friendships in the industry, like how did that like how were you introduced to like to that concept of like having friends in the game? Because there's like acquaintances there, there's like friends. What was your position on friendships in the industry, and how did that go for you having like a close group of friends or acquaintances in the industry?
You know, if
Do
I
you
had
think it had
to,
like a impact, or like did it have a contributing factor to everything? Did it like elevate everything, or
no, I don't think so, because then it sounds like, I wanted to associate myself with certain people to get to a certain, space
no,
in,
not at
in
all.
my,
You were like at the top of your game, so
yeah.
you can't even say that.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what I mean?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No,
Thank
I
you.
mean like because the thing is like you are your surroundings. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I feel like you guys were, like I said, you guys were all rock stars. Like these are all like the hottest art like female like entertainers at the
Personalities and
time.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Right? Do you think it was like contributing to everything?
Like because you mentioned the friends and acquaintances thing,
Yes.
and if I had to look at, a couple of friendships in the industry now, I mean, there are some really good friendships. There are people who have remained friends and really close for the longest of times, since then, even up until now. I see that and I think it's a beautiful thing. And I guess, what I really want to touch on is perhaps my role in every single friendship that I've had in this industry. Like what was the role that I was playing in these friendships and how was I contributing? And perhaps for a long time, I wasn't necessarily contributing in a positive way, because for me, it really is about substance. Like, why are we friends and how are we really connecting?
Did you ever any like really deep conversations with like any of the
I
ladies
don't
and you
even
guys?
I don't really think so. I think if anything, the conversation was always about, what's going on, what to wear, where you've got to be, what are we talking about, what's hot, who's doing what, who's gigging where. I kind of feel like for a long time I myself wasn't very present in any friendship really. I'm not saying that I was a shit friend, I'd be there to hold the space for people, but I think, the conversations weren't, and I'm taking responsibility for that, but I'm saying that perhaps those conversations weren't as meaningful as what they could have been, and all I was ever thinking about was, how can I do more? How can I be better? How can I put myself out there more? As opposed to getting vulnerable, holding the space for people, allowing them to hold the space for me, and even more so, asking for guidance.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where I'm going. I
Right.
don't know what direction I'm
Right.
taking. Who can I turn to? Because
Exactly.
people talk about like mentors in the industry. I don't think I've ever had a mentor.
You know, it's crazy, right? It's like when you get to a certain level, though. This is just my personal like experience. When you get to a certain level, because I would walk into a room, and I'm talking about whether it be a music studio or like a TV channel or
Yes.
whatever, like acting set, like people would look at me as like I'm their age or I'm with them in the game,
Yes.
and it's like I understand that you're
Yeah.
inviting us to be like part, like we belong, you're cool. But like I would like for like an OG to grab me and be like, "Yo, let's go." But
Let's
I think
talk.
when you get to a
Yeah.
certain level of success, or like you have, it's your moment.
Yeah.
Let me rather say, let's say you're the hot property. I think everybody's so
God.
like
Yeah.
scared to
Yeah.
be like, "Yo, do this." I think they all kind of have that thing of like, "No, you're one of us, man. Like, yeah, let's
And you
rock
got
it."
this.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that is where I think the one situation is like we didn't have, especially the 2015 group, man. Like we didn't have that like that OG, and I can list a bunch of them, but like I love all of you guys, so I'm not gonna mention anybody. But like a
Yeah.
lot of us had like big moments, whether it be musicians or DJs or where it was just like you could see that like we were part of like we were hanging out with the OGs like we've been with them forever. So no one was gonna be like, yo, trying to sun us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying with
I
that.
hear you, but that's why I'm saying, it was probably for me to also reach out, and
No, 100%, yeah.
seek like, a little bit of guidance and stuff like that, because I really do feel that we need to at some point turn to each other, and connect with each other to grow together.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that brings me to the point I made earlier about working in a space with producers and songwriters, etc., and saying that, hey, let's work together to create something beautiful, and I
you.
feel like also at some point during that time, all those years ago, I was also just isolated. I didn't feel like we were in this thing together. It was like me doing my own thing, figuring it all out. And, maybe to an extent that was my fault, But for the longest time, I've always felt like, it's like a one-man type of situation. Nobody's really got your back. Nobody's really interested in where to from here. Nobody's really supporting you as genuinely as you might think. But maybe that's just my own perception and how I perceive things for a long time. I don't know.
Guys, it definitely was like amazing as well. So please tell me about like your best moments, like your highlights, like career highlights of like when you were like that girl that was doing every single show. Like, what was your favorite
I'm going to attack
about
all
it?
of them. I'm going to
Yes,
attack all
one by
of them.
one.
So I remember when I was at Y, I had this thing every Friday where I got to interview 2 artists from 2 different genres. And one particular interview I'll never forget was with KO and Black Motion. And I remember KO, saying that, hey, Black Motion, And it ended up being such a vibe in studio, like how they were able to just appreciate each other's music and relate on a musical and emotional level even, and that's beautiful, I love collaborations. I've got some of my most favorite collaborations, and that was one moment for me. Another moment was interviewing Talib Kweli.
Nice.
When he was in the country. That for me was iconic. We had such a vibe.
Was that still on Y, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was still on Y, and we got pretty close, and we had some really deep and meaningful conversations as well. Going into online radio for the first time, like introducing online radio to this country, which on one end it was tricky because of data and so on, but on the other hand, and I was really excited to be in a space where I wasn't controlled, where I had the freedom to talk about what I wanted to, and the I had that line that I could really, make great radio, play the music that I wanted to play, talk about the subjects that I wanted to play. Another iconic moment was when I started my own podcast. It was called Confessions of a Supermom, where I spoke about my journey being a mother, and I was quite nasty in there. I spoke very ill of people, and at the time I was very disgruntled and very resentful and stuff. But it was an iconic moment for me because it was probably the first time that I opened up about some really personal stuff,
And sometimes it obviously doesn't come out like the approach sometimes isn't always the best, but it's like the first step to like
absolutely,
catharsis,
to really. Accepting where I am and what's been going in my life, There's been so many iconic moments. I mean, I've met so many people.
Who was like your like the one person you looked at and you're like, this person is killing it as I need a...
No, well,
even if it's a homie, like...
For me, it will always be Scoop,
Yeah.
Like I in fact, when I met him personally,
I met you for the first time in Randburg at Petty's and you're with Scoop.
Is it?
Yes. And she was wearing like a fur coat. I'm like, who goes to a pub in a fur coat?
Was it winter? Tell me if it was winter.
No, I was wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I was still
the
being
influence. There was influence. Like, Sha, I remember meeting him in Cape Town. And he like loved my energy and he loved what I was about. And he was like, you should come to Y, And I... Literally a week later, I flew up to Y and I was like, listen, Scoop said I should come here, do you have a slot? And it just wasn't my time. They sent me back home,
Damn, how did that feel?
A part of me was really, really disappointed.
Because this was obviously, you were at the door now. Like,
No. I was
like
doing
crazy.
campus radio, came through, Scoop gave me the green light. I mean, if of course, if this guy sees the talent, then, I must be good. So, and I won't say I got turned away or rejected or whatever. It was kind of like a, not right now type of thing. And literally, months later, I got a call saying, listen, there's 4 of you that could potentially have this, 10 to 12 slot Monday to Friday. We're going to give each of you an opportunity to do the show. Damn. And I went last because everybody was in Joburg. I was down in Cape Town. They told me, listen to the station, listen to the vibe. Hey, I was listening. Then it was my turn. And they called me 3 days later and they said, the show is yours,
That's crazy.
And, I'll forever...
Who was the first person you called?
I don't even remember, And at the time, like I said, I was a new mom. And, my son and his father, we just moved into a new home. And it was for me to say, listen, this is what's happening. I got to bounce, So I took my son with me.
And they were in Cape Town.
Yeah, and I came up to Joburg and it was just like 180, you know. So I'll forever be indebted to Scoop, because he really was not just a pillar, but a big supporter, and he really pushed me to just not give up, you know, and focus on, you know, what I was meant to or destined to do, I suppose, you know.
That's amazing.
So that in itself was maybe a very iconic moment as well.
That's nice.
You know,
I love that.
the timing is everything. You know, right now I'm exactly where I need to be at
Yes,
this point.
I believe
You know,
that too. What was the conversation with Mojack? I know that you guys are obviously like brother and sister.
yes,
Yeah. How was that relationship throughout? Obviously you getting to Joburg now, and like just you like in your flipping light. And as you're in your star up there, like what was the relationship like?
Yeah.
Were you guys close? Because like you just said now, OG, you know what I mean? Like, do you think he could have been like someone you kept
Yeah.
close in terms of just family advice as well as industry? Because Mojack has been.
I wish I had reached out to my brother. I wish I had actually, you know, asked him for a bit of support and guidance, you know, and I didn't. And I became very resentful because, you know, I think the expectation was that he should reach out to me. You know, you're supposed to be welcoming me.
It's because Sammy was the star.
With open arms. You know, like, where's the red carpet? You know, I know we fam and everything, but, you know, I'm out here, you know. And, you know, Mo and I, we haven't had the best relationship, you know. It's been rocky, and I have to take a lot of responsibility for that, you know. Mo is very successful in his own right. He's extremely talented. He's super bright. You know, his music knowledge is insane. You know, and we're very similar, but also extremely different. You know, and I think that, to be honest, he missed out on a lot of what was going on in my life, and vice versa. You know, in Joburg, you know, we shouldn't be saying to each other, yeah, but everybody's doing their own thing and people have lives and, you know, everybody's busy. Like, we make time, you know, and there were moments where I really, really needed him. You know, the guy is brilliant, but, you know, he's focused, you know, and that's the thing, you know. It's like, I maybe if I, and I don't want to make that comparison, but, you know, for me, I was just all over. And here you've got a guy who's really, he's got such beautiful balance in his life, you know, where it's studies and it's comedy and it's, you know, football and it's, you know, commercials and it's TV. And he was doing like some really fire stuff, you know. And I was also thinking that whenever I have gigs, show up. That never happened. You know, when he had gigs, I showed up all the time. And I could never understand where that came from. I could have done more, you know, in the relationship, and I could have supported him in other areas, you know, not just to say, oh, you've got a gig, you know, let me rock up. You know, that's support, but it's not the only support. You know what I mean?
Right.
We can go to the gigs, we can show up, we can buy each other liquor or whatever the case is. We can say, hi, how you're doing, great job. But, you know, when are we sitting down around a dinner table and talking about, you know, family and the industry and pressures and our relationship? When are we working on that stuff, you know? And I can't pin it on the guy, you know. I also had a role to play in everything. But today I'm proud of my growth and how I've been able to take accountability for a lot of stuff, you know. Moving in the right direction. Growth is experience and observation, my friends.
So tell me where you felt like you hit the wall. Like when the moment happened for you and you were like,
Yeah.
fuck it.
I found myself.
Sorry. Because obviously everything happened for us. I think last time I saw you was actually the Devil's Lounge, Kintari. That's the last time I saw Sam, and I was like, "What up, yo?" And we're like excited to see each other.
Oh, it's furniture.
No, this was like 2018 even. I saw you and I was like, "How are you doing?" And it was like a very passing. It wasn't like we didn't even hang out. But I remember seeing you there, right? So it's not like as soon as when you were like left TV like crazy or like radio like crazy, it's not like you immediately went like quiet.
Yeah.
You were still doing your thing. You were still out like, and obviously I felt that I was in denial as well. Like I was obviously I noticed your interview, but like I was like addicted to marijuana, right? So as soon as like I was like done with Vuzu and like all these other things that I was doing, like I then had my vice.
Okay.
Where I was going crazy.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was partying, I was like performing, but I knew that like I was getting high before getting on stage. and I was like drinking before getting. So I knew I was just like on a road very fast downwards, but there was no like as soon as Vuzu ended or the mainstream like went a bit quiet, that was my moment to like settle down, because that was probably the biggest sign from God to be like, sit down, bro. Like,
Take a chill pill.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So in your light, you obviously still carry on partying and like having fun and like being out there. When did it hit for you when you were like, shit, I'm tired of partying. This is just crazy. Like, I'm not doing well.
You know, Shelton, there was a time where I was out Monday to Monday, you know. I would find anything to do. And at some point, and people don't really know this, but at some point I found myself in a casino like 3 or 4 times a week, you know, leaving at like 9 in the morning, you know, because they deceive you. You think it's dark, but, you know, outside, you know, people are going to work and it's a new day. And, you know, I didn't at the time see anything wrong with that.
What identity do you think you were embodying? What was your mindset? Like, what Sam were you here post all of the lights? What Sam were you here that was in the flipping casino 4 times a week?
A Sam that was, you know, all over the place. A Sam that wasn't focused. A Sam that didn't have direction. A Sam that was too excited at times. You know, a Sam that wasn't present. Not just in her own life, but in the lives of her children, friends and family, and that sort of thing. And, you know, it took me probably about 4 years to realize that, you know, something is amiss here. I remember going through a really difficult time, and I spent like 7 days in the ICU, right? Wasn't feeling too good, you know, thought about ending it and whatever the case is. And I don't think I've really shared much about this, you know, and for 7 days I couldn't really talk, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't wash myself, I couldn't brush my teeth. And I thought that, you know, this is the turning point, you know, and I went to Cape Town for about 2 months and, you know, I got into a 12-step program and stuff. But I wasn't working the program. I was just listening to people, you know, share their stories. And I even thought to myself, I'm not as bad as you guys, you know. And came back to Joburg and, you know, the penny hadn't dropped for me. I went back into my old behaviors and my old ways of thinking.
Sam? Like, you can't cheat it, eh?
My friend,
when real life like faces you and you try be the
I was
swaggy
running
person
on
with the tats and
self-will.
stuff.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
My self-will was running riot. And when that episode happened, you know, being hospitalized and whatever, doing those, you know, 2 months of whatever, coming back, you know, I was kind of telling everybody or lying to myself that things had changed, right? And it took me 4 years after that to reach my rock bottom, you know? And not only that, I lost my dad, and 11 months after that, you know, I just said to myself, I can't do this anymore, you know? Nothing is fun, nothing is exciting, nothing is, you know, nothing is I'm not moving forward, you know. I felt for a very long time I was just stagnant, you know, and I was just kind of going through the motions and not really present for myself, you know. So when my dad passed away 11 months later, I was just continuing with that cycle of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? And it was madness. My physical health was deteriorating, my emotional, mental health was just through the roof. My emotions was so unstable, you know, people didn't want to be around me. And that's the reality. And fortunately, a lot of people never saw this. But those who did, it was toxic. It was shocking. You know, I was aggressive. I was, you know, just angry all the time. I was suppressing a lot of what I felt. And, you know, everybody, I suppose, has traumas, you know, but there's a way in which we deal with that. And the loss of my dad was probably the biggest, you know, how can I say, it was really when things spiraled out of control for me, you know.
Do you think you like, was it like hope? Like, cause I'm sure, were you close with your dad, right?
Absolutely, you know, and I think, if anything, never mind hope and whatever, I was in deep denial, you know.
Oh, condolences for your dad. I'm just like, was it hope?
Yeah.
I'm obviously like, yeah.
No, but that's it, you know, and I can tell you for free that if you have an issue with substances or alcohol or whatever the case is, and somebody says, you know, you need help, or somebody, you know, checks you into a facility or whatever the case is, you're not going to get clean. You're not going to get sober. You know, if you do it for anybody, like if I had to, you know, fix my life for my children, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here right now. So it was for me to have that sort of spiritual awakening. It was for me to have that realization. It was for me to say, I have a problem, you know. And I ended up, you know, going away for about 4 months and focusing on not the grief, not the thinking, not the career, not the I want to find my purpose. It was really working on my behavior. Because at some point my behavior was totally out of control, and I think that's why, you know, I was pushing people away, you know.
What was your like the spark? What was your voice that said, "Okay, let's go get help now, dude. Let's stop all of this"? Because like I know mine was very clear. I was in yesterday's in my mom's lounge. I was super depressed. I had gained so much weight, maybe definitely heavier than this. I had a stomach, yo. I'm talking about like
a dad bod. You gotta own the dad bod, man.
Cosmo's sexiest man runner up. Like I
And
was
then,
like my guy.
yeah.
And then I was a fatty at like at my mom's house, and I just heard a voice that said,
Hashtag we love dad bods. We love
yeah,
dad
no,
bods.
I'm not knocking nobody. I'm just saying you can work out. You
Yeah.
know? And then yeah, this voice just said, go do push-ups. Now, people that listen to me, they'll maybe like, this guy is crazy, or bro, that was just your mind. No, the moment that happened, my life completely changed. I can't explain it.
Yeah, shift.
What was your voice? Like, what did you hear?
I think the whomever the voice was coming from, what it told me was, you need to start feeling, you know, because for years and years and years, I was just not feeling anything. I wasn't feeling the sadness, the happiness, the joy, nothing. There was nothing. I was numb to absolutely everything and anything. And I would grab absolutely anything to suppress whatever was going on for me, you know? And the voice just said, you gotta start feeling, you know? And
it's so loud, eh?
It was
so
and
loud.
I had this like sort of internal conflict going on, because it was like, who do I turn to? Where do I go? What do I say? Because I don't even know what's going on and what's wrong with me, you know?
And that's probably the moment when you knew that you had to go stand in the mirror.
Absolutely.
There was no one else to
And I hated looking at myself in the mirror for a long time, you know? And my issue was that I was constantly projecting onto everybody. And that's the thing, you know, it's like, instead of looking at self, we'd rather look at other people and point out their faults and what's going on for them, what they're not doing, or what they should be doing better or more of, you know? And this was an opportunity to just change the narrative completely and say, it's not about everybody else. Never mind Mojack, never mind Dad, never mind, you know, the kids or whatever. Let's take a look at Sam and what's going on for her from a mind, body, and spirit point of view, you know? And I'd have to say, and this is just in my opinion, whatever your vice is, whether it's weed or whatever the case is, whether it's alcohol or anything harder, putting down the drug and the drink is the easiest thing. For me, it's so easy to do that. It's working on the behavior that is the most difficult part, you know? And the easiest thing that
unlearning of
100%. And you know what, Shelton? It actually boils down to choices. You know, what I realized on my journey is that in every situation where perhaps I could have been honest, I just chose to be dishonest. In every situation where I could have shown humility, I chose to be entitled. In every situation where I could have shown compassion and kindness, I chose to be cruel and self-centered. So that is kind of the journey that I worked on, and which led me to then making my amends and approaching people and saying, I want to hear, you know, from your side how this relationship was. And it was difficult. Imagine, you know, having a conversation with a family member and having them hear or hearing them say how you treated them or what you said in moments where they were reaching out. I mean, it's horrific. But what I've also realized is that when that happens, I can't, you know, just say I'm sorry. I've got to make what we call a living amends. Like every day, I'm making a little bit of an effort to contribute in a positive way in this particular relationship.
And of course, now you going to go and apologize doesn't mean they're necessarily immediately going to be like,
I mean,
let's go.
Shelton, people, you know, you got to give people time. You know, people are on their own journeys, and a number of people who I've been able to make my amends with have said, you know, Sam, I went to therapy because of you. You know, I had to get help because of you and your behavior and your aggression and all that stuff, you know? And that was hard for me to learn. And what I had to do is just have a great deal of acceptance around that. And also like that's where the hope and the faith comes in. You know, that have a bit of faith and hope that things will, you know, turn out for the better. You will be forgiven. You know, a part of my process has also been like forgiving myself. You know, what's happened has happened. I need to, and a mantra that I have is the serenity prayer. I don't know if you know it. You know, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That what is in my control is my thinking, my behavior, my actions, how I respond to things, and how I treat people. But what isn't in my control are people, places, and things. I have no control over how you perceive me or what you think of me. I have no control over the casino, for example. Like I stay right next door to the casino. Now I can't say demolish the place because, you know, it's a trigger for me. You know?
You taking the step to like obviously get better and like do everything that you have to do and apologizing and mending relationships is like actively doing that. You have some, I know that personally for myself, you have some sense of like, you know, redemption, like you feel good and like something keeps you going. What does Sam do when you don't feel like good some days? When it hits you.
I talk about it. I share, you know. For over 15 years I've not been sharing. I've not been getting vulnerable.
Who do you talk to?
So I mean, first and foremost, my higher power. You know, I've got a beautiful concept of a higher power. I often refer to that as good, orderly direction. You know, that's who I talk to mostly. You know, I've met some incredible people who, by the way, are also in recovery. They do the sobriety thing, also working their own journey and, you know, on the right path. You know, I think at the end of the day, I always say, and I might be, you know, moving away from your question, but, you know, I was once told that the two most important days in your life is the day you were born and the day you find your purpose. And I think the only way for me to find my purpose is by being in recovery, is like by being clean and sober and focused and present, you know. And for me, just by sharing and talking and handing it over and saying, you know, and not running on self-will, because that's what I've been doing for the longest time. You know, like it's not about my will, it's about my higher power's will. You know, anything greater than myself, you know, I got to hand it over to, you know, him or her or them, you know, as they say. And for me, you know, it's when times are tough or I'm really struggling, it's just to firstly recognize how I'm feeling and think about how I'm going to respond to that feeling, because it could go horribly wrong if I make the wrong decision. How I respond to anger today is so different to how I used to respond to anger. You know, today I do like healthier things, like how's about hit a punching bag or go to the gym or go for a run or just scream, you know, before I would have taken everything out on you. It's usually the closest, safest person to you that bears the brunt of whatever sort of inner shit is going on, you know. So first and foremost, prayer, meditation, talking to my higher power, and even like, you know, whether it's the other or the next addict or alcoholic, you know, holding the space for them. Being of service actually puts me in a beautiful space. Being of service. I never used to, you know, like doing things for other people, you know, like, oh, let me give you a lift. What? You know, I never used to like being of service. And it's so ironic because my parents were struggle stalwarts. They did so much for this country and its people. And they put themselves at the forefront of the most difficult eras in this country. And yet I am so selfish and self-absorbed that I can't think about my brother or my fellow sister, you know?
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. It's so amazing, guys.
Yay!
You know what's crazy?
Progress.
It's like I've known like Sam for quite a while now, and the real thing is like you haven't changed at all. Like I think you've just taken away like the little, because I feel like you had to go through that, and like
Absolutely.
you went through it at like a young age. Thank God.
People are
You know
like
what I mean?
in their 50s
That's what
trying to put down the alcohol.
Guys, wait, like how old were you when you like when we had our mainstream break?
I was like So when I came into the industry, I mean, that was, hey, the age game, I'm giving it away now. But that was maybe like 23. I
Come
was
on.
23.
Like
So.
23-year-old people do some crazy shit.
And I was doing it.
You
I was
know,
doing
so
it.
it's
I was
like,
doing it.
so
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, to an extent, you have to give yourself so much credit and be like, you just have to. You have to go through that period. Like, I'm not saying that you did it the right way or it was the wrong way. You just had to go through your personal, because for
Absolutely.
you to be the person you are today, the
Yeah.
stuff that you know, you're still the same person. And I always say now, I believe it so much. Like, your weaknesses are like your strengths. Like the
Yeah.
fact that you're like such a strong personality, like that hasn't changed. You walk in this and you think this is like Sam's place. You walk in, it's like, I'm like, hey, Sam has not.
What do you mean? So
But,
I run the show
yes, you
everywhere
run
I
the show,
go?
100%. But it is from like a pure place.
Absolutely.
It is from a place of like so much maturity, from a place of like learning, like, and I'm not saying that you matured. No. I'm just saying like from everything you're saying and like from my personal journey, like I can see that like you've definitely done the inner work. And you're not trying to like project anything on anybody anymore,
You know,
or like
Shelton,
trying to be seen
no,
to be
not
the
interested.
center of attention.
Not interested in
But
that.
because of the natural you that you are,
Yeah.
that light just naturally like is gonna do that.
Yeah, thank you.
You know what I mean? But now it's like calculated, like you said, your anger is more control, all of those different things.
100%. You know, in the journey that I've embarked on, you know, and it's only been, you know, for about 2 years or so. There's three things that I'm so grateful for is the ability to uncover, discover, and discard. So in this journey or on this journey, I've uncovered so many things, not just about myself, but other people as well. I've discovered so many new interests that I have and I suppose, you know, assets in myself and the defects as well. And then by identifying those defects, I've been able to discard them. And you know, it's a constant kind of how can I say, like, not exercise or project, but it's like a constant thing where on a daily, if you're present in your own life, you're able to have this great level of awareness that hang on, hey, I'm acting out here, you know, let me change the behavior, you know, because the awareness was nowhere before, you know. And over and above all of that, it's the mindfulness as well. You know, I have to be mindful of my surroundings, people, places, and things. What are my triggers? What are my issues, etc. You know, and if anything, that ability to uncover, discover, and discard has just helped me in so many ways. You know, and for me, there are a lot of things that is still the same about me. I'm happy that you recognize that.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm still,
Yeah.
you know, chilled and out there and
Oh no,
positive
the
and
chill
whatever.
is not
You know,
there. She's the swag, the energy, the
Yeah.
personality. But like I said, now it's all like so
modified, modification.
It's you.
Real authentic
what I mean?
self, boom, you know. And it
Awesome.
doesn't, I mean, I'm not perfect.
No,
you know,
no,
and
100%.
in no way, shape, or form. And I think this journey has been necessary. It's been so vital to do.
How's this comeback season looking for you? What are you excited about?
Yeah.
The new Sam. What do you like about the new Sam? Connected with this journey and personally and career-wise, etc. With your kids, with your family.
Yeah. There's this thing, you know, in the industry. I don't know if it's true today, but they say, yeah, if we don't see you, or we don't hear you on radio, you're not relevant, you know. And I believed that. Like I was hearing these things and I was telling myself this, and I knew that, you know, I'm never gonna come back, you know, and I really, really believed that. And when I started this journey of introspection and I went on this hiatus, I kind of realized that nothing else mattered other than my mind, body, and spirit, you know? And moving away from a culture of, you know, addiction or a culture of bad behavior or whatever into a culture of recovery and positivity and really cultivating a positive mindset, you know, I was able to put really good energy out into the universe, right? And it's been 2 years since my journey started, and only now things are kind of unraveling for me and coming together. And what I've realized is that, because I used to be the person that's like, yeah, I want a clothing brand, I want to start a website, I want to sell merch, you know, I want to have this. What? And for me, when this radio gig came up, I said, that's going to be my focus going forward, nothing else. There's this thing called, and I'm going to school you, because, you know, I'm a certified life coach as well, you know, which I did for myself, not to charge people.
Amazing.
But there's this thing called the cycle of change, you know, and it's got about 5 to 6 stages. And I think it's important to use that, you know, in my story as well, because the first stage is pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation is the stage where you're not even thinking about changing. You know, I'm reckless, I'm behaving badly, I'm going out every night, I'm dishonest to the whole world, I'm not showing up for work, I'm irresponsible. So pre-contemplation is like, I don't give a fuck, and I'm okay, I'm not the problem, you're the problem for telling me I have the problem. The second stage is contemplation, where maybe Shelton and I had a conversation. He kind of brought a few things to my attention, and you know, it's worth thinking about it. I don't believe the guy. I don't think I do need to change, but I'm thinking about it. And then we have another conversation, and I move to the stage of determination, where you know what, I've got to change, and I've got to rectify my bullshit, you know? But you can be determined, but where's the action? So that's the next stage, is now doing the necessary work by going on this maybe 4-month hiatus.
And that's when the work starts.
100%. And doing the work and looking at my unmanageability, my powerlessness, looking at my disconnect with my higher power, looking at my defects of character, etc. That's the work that I'm doing. And then after that, after the action, we have the maintenance. And that's the daily sort of work that I'm doing, the serenity prayer, the meditation, the service, the, you know, showing up for work and doing the next best thing. And then you have the relapse stage, which is just falling back into the old behaviors, the old thinking, the negativity, the aggression, the very belligerent
like
bullshit,
cycle,
you know? And that's what I was talking about earlier, the insanity, like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like you could still be in Easterus or whatever with your dad bod, you know, if you hadn't changed the mindset. You know what I mean? Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Oh, by the way, I'm charging for that session. That was a coaching tool, coaching session.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing with us and just hanging out with me, opening up to me. Guys, I swear to you, I'm not even like close to a certified like therapist. I don't even think I'm trying to like.
I was planning on
route.
lying down and then
Yeah,
saying,
she was
Shelton,
like, she wants to lay down a therapy session. But
Yeah.
like, I just wanted to, you know, like I told you, I think I just wanted to have like a real conversation with one of the people that I respect, appreciate, and like cherish in this industry,
Wow.
you know, because we are in the space together and we know what it takes to be here and to be the people that we are. And like we give so much of ourselves like to the world when we do what we do. When all is said and done, with everything that you've learned personally, spiritually, professionally, what will your icon story be? What do you want to be remembered for?
Wow. You know, my friend, I'm sorry to like keep going back to my journey and whatever,
please.
you know, but like I said, it was a lot of uncovering and discovering and stuff, you know. And I looked at, you know, a lot of my defects, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, is this what I want to be remembered as? You know, do I want to be remembered as this very belligerent, aggressive, nasty, irresponsible, unreliable individual, you know, who, you know, had quite a lot going for her, but couldn't recognize her potential, you know? And there's something that I learned very recently. It's called the 5 L's. And it talks about, you know, loving and living and laughing and learning and all those beautiful things. And I looked at the 5th one. So there's how much more loving do you want to do? There's how much more learning you want to do, how much more laughing you want to do, and all those things, and the learning. And the 5th one was the leaving of legacy, you know, and how I want to be remembered. And today I'm working so hard on my service, my character, my positivity, the ability to hold the space for people, the ability to show a good level or to have a good level of EQ. You know, I read, you know, my IQ is pretty up there, you know, but it's about
you're
the
doing
EQ.
the tenders and the closing the deals.
Hey, man, I was sitting in the boardroom with the chairman, you know, giving input.
You can't just wing that on.
No. And with this also, can you imagine? But anyway, so privilege, you know. Cut that out. Take that out. So, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, I said to myself that it really boils down to choice.
Yeah.
You know, like I choose to be this person who is selfless, this person who shows compassion and is really dedicated, you know. I'm passionate about so many things, but most importantly, people. I'm passionate about people, bringing people together, giving them a platform to speak, On my radio show, I'm going to be interviewing a 9-year-old girl, who has something to say about gender-based violence, And most people, Shelton, most young people, never mind a second chance. They've never even had a first chance, And this is what we're not recognizing in the world, is that it's not always just about us, Here I am today, very mindful and aware of where I'm at, and where I need to be and where I want to go. Tomorrow is not promised, but just for today, I've shown up for you, I've shown up for myself, I've shown up for the people who have supported me for a very long time, and I'm very grateful for that, There's always, that one thing that you do or say or give to someone that they will never forget, And somebody once told me, in fact, a mentor of mine said, why do you think things are happening in your life right now? Like, why do you think you've got the gig and you've got the supporters and you've got the job and whatever the case is? Why do you think that's happening? And I said, I don't know. I don't fucking know, But yet I said the IQ is up there. And the guy said, the reason why all these things are happening is because you've changed. Because you have changed is why things are changing around you. And that's a beautiful thing. And it boils down to choice. Like today I choose to be clean. I choose to be sober. I choose to be present. I choose to be healthy. And the triangle that I live by is mind, body, and spirit. And all those three things need to be, aligned. How am I feeding my mind? How am I feeding my spirit? How am I feeding my body? And today I feed those three things in a completely different way as what I used to before.
Sammy, thank you so much. I appreciate you. This is the first official episode of Iconic with the series of comeback season. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for everything you got going.
Can I say something before we wrap up? Yeah.
Okay, can we ask you what you have going on? Like what's
yes,
coming?
Yes. Okay, cool.
Please.
So before I do that, I want to say thank you first and foremost for having me on the show. I appreciate you. I love your work. I've always loved your work. If anything, there's a reason why our paths have crossed again, and just know that I support you in whatever you do. I'm here for you, and it's not just a post or, a screen share or whatever the case is. It's showing up for you, in more ways than one. So I wish you all the best, and thank you for having me. This is really dope, and this is big for me as well, What I'm up to, just trying to keep my head above the water. That's really it, But I'm back on radio, a very different space for me. These guys are treating me really well. I'm on Mix 93.8 FM, Monday to Friday from 9 until 11 a.m. Still doing the corporate thing, loving.
Guys, by the way, I saw her in action this morning. Better than ever.
Did it?
Better than
ever. You come in. No, you stand by. Hey man, could be a fucking. Now I'm gonna start landing planes. I can do that next. Fuck.
Let's go.
Then they're gonna tell me you're stealing our checks. So never mind. So that's the show. I am a director on the board for an NPO that helps domestic violence victims. We help both men and women. We are one of the only organizations that offer legal advice. And we're just saving lives. Like I said, we're giving people the opportunity to share. I'm really good at holding the space these days. Like, I like doing that, and people are struggling, everybody's struggling. We're looking at the cost of living. There's a lot of things that's going on. And I think what I want to get into is having conversations around those things, But it's really just the show and my personal stuff. I'm still a mother. I'm doing the recovery thing. I'm going really hard, taking it just for today, one day at a time. I'm part of the no matter what club, that no matter what, I'm still gonna, just stay on the right path, There's so many things that I want to do. However, I just feel like it will happen.
Yes, with everything,
it will happen,
I think with everything, I think the foundation the one day at a time foundation is amazing because you're applying it everywhere now.
Absolutely.
Everything you're doing, even with your radio, it's like you're doing this, and you focus on that, because everything else is gonna happen. Like that is not up to us. Like whatever the results or whatever comes to us or what we get, that's not up to us. It's what, like you said, what you do every day. You're showing up every day. You're doing your thing. Like I think that's all we can really do. So,
what I will say is that the making that decision to go into recovery, you know, means that I had to really build a solid foundation. You know what I mean? And what I want to leave everybody with is the concept of equilibrium and balance. You know, people say, oh, you know, work is my life, and you know, gigs are my life, and radio is my life. But the reality is that, you know, your life is broken up into so many different parts, you know. So you've got your career, but you also have your finances. You have your friends, but you also have your family. You have me time, which is recreation. You have spirituality. You have service and contribution. And you also have what we call self-image. So what I've learned to do today, because I was giving so much time and attention to like my social life that, you know, I neglected my kids, I neglected my family, I neglected my work, I dropped the ball, and I hated myself, you know. Now it's really just about being able to contribute to all those different parts of my life and find balance. This has been beautiful, man.
Thank you. This has been amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Lehoko.
Yes.
I'm saying it right, right?
Lehoko.
Yeah, I said it right.
Yes.
I said it right. This is
Yes.
the first official
Yes.
episode
Bueno.
of Iconic. You're doing Shelton Forbez, Sammy,
Oh.
Sam Lehoko. Thank you so much, guys. Later.